Hi, welcome to Lies and Secrets channel. We hope you will have fun with us. Enjoy watching. I never thought my husband would forgive me for doing this with 3 donkeys. First, let me describe myself. My name is Aurora, and I've always been proud of the woman I am. I'm a plus-size woman with measurements of 42 inches across my C*****T, 34 inches at the waist, and 46 inches at the H***SS. My curves have always been a part of me, and while society sometimes judges women like me, I've embraced my body with confidence and grace. I'm happily married to a wonderful man, Alexander. He's everything a woman could ask for, loving, hardworking, and a great father to our kids. I love him deeply, and he's always been my rock together. We've built a beautiful life, and our family is my greatest treasure. Last Christmas, we decided to spend the holiday weekend at a cozy farmhouse just outside the city. It was supposed to be a peaceful escape for the family, a chance to bond and make memories. Alexander, as always, had his laptop with him. His demanding job often kept him busy even during family trips. Our kids were excited, running around the farmhouse, playing games and exploring the open fields. As the day went on, I found myself alone. Alexander was immersed in work, and the kids were lost in their own little world of adventure. I decided to take in the beauty of nature, wandering around the farmhouse grounds and enjoying the crisp winter air. There's something so calming about the countryside, the chirping birds, the gentle rustle of leaves, and the way the sunlight filters through the trees. One evening, Alexander suggested we have a bonfire. Kids were thrilled, and everyone decided to drive back to the city to pick up supplies. Alexander took the kids along, leaving me alone at the farmhouse. I didn't mind. Gave me more time to relax and soak in the serenity as I sat on the porch sipping hot cocoa. I suddenly heard the sound of donkeys braying from behind the farmhouse. Curious, I walked over to see what was happening. To my surprise, there were 3 donkeys standing there staring at me. First I was startled, but as I got closer, they seemed unusually calm. They didn't run or make any noise. Instead, they walked toward me, their eyes full of curiosity. I stood there, unsure of what to do. They were surprisingly friendly, nuzzling against me as if they'd known me forever. I laughed nervously, realizing how silly I must look. Chatting with 3 donkeys in the middle of nowhere. I started petting them, and soon it felt like we had formed an unspoken bond. They followed me as I explored the farmhouse's backyard, and for a moment I forgot about being alone. While playing around, I accidentally stepped on a patch of ice and slipped, landing on an old truck tire lying in the yard. As I tried to get up, I realized I was stuck in the opening of the tire. My half body was out and the upper part of me was in the tire. Panic set in as I struggled to free myself, but it was no use. The donkeys stood around me, their heads tilted as if trying to understand what had happened. What happened next is something I'll carry with me forever. It's not a moment I'm proud of, nor one I can fully explain. Alone and vulnerable, I found myself in a situation I never imagined. The donkeys, sensing my predicament, came closer. Suddenly I felt a curious presence behind me, 3 donkeys drawn in by the scent. I'm not sure what just happened, but I was taken by surprise when something touched me, causing me to leap up in shock, exclaiming, "Oh my God, what?" When I turned around, there were 3 donkeys lounging comfortably with their tails thumping against the floor. They had that classic goofy expression, head tilted to one side as if they were asking, "We like that? Can we have some more, please?" I shot them a disapproving glance and firmly told them, "Keep your nose out of there, you perverts." After that, they hit me 1 by 2. One thing led to another, and in that isolated moment a connection was made that should never have happened. After that, I managed to escape from the tire. I spent what felt like hours in that moment, grappling with emotions I couldn't comprehend. The silence of the countryside was broken only by the occasional sound of the donkeys' movements, and I felt an overwhelming mix of confusion and guilt. I had no one to turn to, no way to explain what had transpired. The isolation seemed to amplify everything, and all I could do was sit there trying to process what had happened. By the time Alexander and the kids returned, I was sitting on a chair outside the farmhouse. Exhausted and overwhelmed, the donkeys stood nearby. Watching me silently, Alexander walked over. Concern etched on his face. "Aurora, what are you doing out here?" he asked, helping me up. "Oh, I was playing with the donkeys," I replied, forcing a smile. "I must have dozed off. They're surprisingly friendly." He chuckled, shaking his head. "You and your love for animals, come on. Let's head inside." I was barely able to walk. I followed him back into the farmhouse, the weight of guilt pressing down on me. I couldn't bring myself to tell him what had happened. How could I? It was a secret. I'd have to live with one. I'd bury deep within myself. That night we had our bonfire. Kids roasted marshmallows, Alexander played his guitar, and we all laughed and sang under the starry sky. On the surface, everything was perfect, but inside I felt shattered. The guilt was a shadow that wouldn't leave. A constant reminder of the line I'd crossed. The next morning I woke up early hoping to find a sense of peace in the crisp morning air. I walked back to the spot where the donkeys had been, half expecting them to be gone. To my surprise, they were still there, grazing quietly. They looked up as I approached, their eyes filled with the same gentle curiosity as before. I stood there for a long time, watching them in some strange way. They seemed to understand me, to know the turmoil I was feeling. It was as if they were trying to tell me that life goes on, that mistakes don't define who we are. But even as I tried to find solace in their presence, the guilt remained. Over the next few days, I threw myself into family activities, trying to distract myself from the thoughts that kept creeping in. We played board games, went on hikes, and even baked cookies together. Alexander was his usual loving self, always attentive and caring. Kids were full of energy, their laughter filling the farmhouse with warmth. But no matter how much I tried to focus on the present, that moment in the backyard lingered in the back of my mind. The night, as I lay next to Alexander, I'd replay everything in my head, questioning what had led me to that point. Was it loneliness, curiosity, a lapse in judgment? I didn't have the answers, and I wasn't sure I ever would. As the holiday weekend came to an end, we packed up our things and headed back to the city. The farmhouse, with all its memories, both good and bad, faded into the background. As we drove away, I watched the countryside disappear in the rear-viewed mirror, a part of me relieved to be leaving it behind. Life returned to normal. After that, Alexander went back to work. Kids went back to school, and I resumed my daily routine, but the guilt never left. It was a constant presence, a reminder of the mistake I'd made. I found myself avoiding the topic of that weekend, steering conversations away from anything that might bring it up. Months passed, and the memory of that day began to fade, though it never disappeared completely. I poured my energy into being the best wife and mother. I could be determined to make up for the guilt I carried. I volunteered at the kids' school, planned date nights with Alexander, and even started a new hobby, painting. It was therapeutic, a way to channel my emotions into something positive. Even now, as I sit here writing this, I can't fully understand what came over me that day. All I know is that I made a mistake, one I'll carry with me forever. I love my husband and my family more than anything, and I'd never want to hurt them. But that day at the farmhouse changed something within me. It's a chapter of my life. I'll never forget, a secret I'll take to my grave. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like, and leave a comment. If you enjoyed this story, this will help us create even more exciting stories.